Rank 1 on the Korean solo queue ladders. 96 LEESIN games played just this season, carrying a 71% win rate against the toughest competition this game has to offer. As the title of this video reads, today we're going to be learning from the best of the best. Today we will be analyzing Peanut, the jungler for SK Telecom T1, and how he likes to play LEESIN.
Sort of par for the course. Yeah, Wolf getting caught at level 4. Here's the jump in. A few more attacks will do it. And that's first blood. Peanut with the flash kick on the bang. That was beautiful. And they make it a double kill for Prey.
So first and foremost, let's take a look at his typical runes and masteries and his skill order. Now this actually shocked me when I saw his runes for LEESIN. He takes 9 attack damage reds, 6 attack speed blues, 3 scaling magic resist per level blues, 9 scaling health per level yellows, and 3 attack speed quintessences. For masteries, he takes 12, 18, 0, with his keystone going into Thunderlords. Some notable things about his masteries is he takes Assassin for early game invading, as well as Greenfather's Gift, and he actually takes Natural Talent over Vampirism. He runs these runes and masteries in just about every game, no matter who he's jungling against. For skill building, pretty standard. He starts Q, then W, then E, and then he maxes Q, then W, then E, straight up. Now, after reviewing a lot of his games, I've picked up on what he typically builds each game. I've noticed some blatant patterns and some rule of thumbs he seems to go by, so let's take a look at how Peanut builds LEESIN. He always starts the standard refillable pot in Hunter's Machete, and on his first back we see the first rule of thumb I've picked up on. I'm going to put a visual on the screen for you to act as a reference sheet that you can look at whenever you play Lee. This will cover every possible scenario when you make your first back, and after studying some of his games, this is how he likes to prioritize which items he snags on that first back. One thing to note is that anytime you follow this model and you have 75 gold to spare after buying what you can, always purchase a control ward. In all the games I watched, he purchased a control ward on his first back in just about all of them. Now, as you can tell, he always rushes Tracker's Knife, Warrior Enchant, and Tier 1 boots. Until he has these items, he doesn't build any other item. His second item tends to vary, depending on what the enemy team composition has. If he needs early MR, he'll always rush Hex Drinker's second item. If he doesn't, he'll rush one of 3 items: Deadman's Plate, Randuin's Omen, or Black Cleaver. If the enemy has primarily AD threats, he'll always rush one of the armor items, and he goes Randuin's when the enemies also carry a lot of attack speed and or crit damage. The only time he builds Black Cleaver's second item is when he's snowballing pretty hard and the enemy team has primarily tank champions, or the damage threats are too behind for him to need resistances yet. Now, building off of his second item, let's take a look at what his core build in almost every game is. Tracker's Knife, Warrior Enchant, Deadman's Plate or Randuin's Omen, Maw of Malmortius, Black Cleaver, and Guardian's Angel. GA is usually his last item, but rarely do I ever see a game of his go long enough to reach this last item. Now, the only thing I left off was boots. 100% of the time, he goes Ninja Tabi or Merc Treads. He never builds anything else. If the enemy team brings a lot of crowd control, he'll build Mercs. And if they bring a lot of auto attack based AD champions, then he'll go Ninja Tabis. These are 2 example full builds you could expect to see from Peanut. Alright guys, now let's get into the spectate of Peanut's LEESIN in Korean solo queue. So the game is starting here, and just right off the bat, one thing that I've noticed about Peanut's early game is, he has a lot of flexibility with his clear. It's typical to start red buff on this side of the map because it allows you to end up top side at level 3, which I feel is easier to gank at level 3, and watching his other games, he usually also starts at red buff on this side of the map. But because Rengar players typically start red buff no matter where they're at on the map, he goes for a blue buff start so that he can match Rengar's pathing and end up on the same side of the map at level 3, and also to potentially defend himself from Rengar cheesing and stealing his blue buff at level 2. It's definitely important to be adaptable with your first clear depending on the situation. Don't feel stuck like you have to always do a certain clear. That's definitely the first thing that I've learned from watching Peanut play LEESIN. So in this game, he ends up bot side of the map at level 3. Even though his bot lane is super pushed, so you can't really go bot, he sees an opportunity to gank mid here. Ward hops in, gets the E on him, and then lands the Q, and Cat's able to follow it up and have enough damage to finish him off. And despite the flip-flopped clear path, he still manages to get a really good start to the game for him here. So another thing I noticed that Peanut likes to do is clearing the camps on the side of the map that he intends to gank before ganking. I've heard other good junglers say the same thing, but basically it comes back to efficiency. Ganking in and of itself can be a risky play, and in the event that you don't get anything out of it, it's much more efficient to clear the camps on the way there as opposed to clearing them after the gank attempt. And this is something that I see Peanut do before almost every gank attempt. So this is something I thought was really cool. He's going for a gank on Irelia here. Kennen just TP'd back to lane. Now, I would look at this situation and be like, all right, there's just no way I'm going to be able to get any... There's no way I'm going to be able to get to this Irelia. She's either going to see me or she's just going to run under her tower when I come to lane. But the way Peanut approaches this gank is really interesting and something I never have thought to do. Maybe I'm just a bad player, but... So if we toggle on Fog of War just for Irelia's side, we can see that, you know, she obviously has a ward in Tribrush to defend her from LEESIN trying to, you know, get a cheesy gank under tower or like just outside tower. But I think Peanut knows where the ward is for Irelia. He didn't see her place it. He just assumes that, you know, she's too pushed to actually put a ward in river, but she probably has a ward in Tribrush. And look at how he paths here. He blast cones over the wall. And it's like he must know exactly how much vision a ward grants depending on where it's placed, because he does not step into this range of vision. He sits in this little Fog of War pocket, which is something I see him do very often. He likes to, you know, guess where a ward is and then kind of give them a false sense of security by sitting in little patches of Fog of War. If we keep talking this on and off, we can see he's just sitting right in that Fog of War patch. He clearly sees something I don't. Irelia goes in and, you know, Kennen gets the stun. He comes flying in right whenever he should, and they're actually able to clean up the kill here. Yeah, that's just a really interesting play that, like, I don't think to do myself. Of course, he pushes the wave in after he gets the kill on Irelia to deny her more XP and farm. This is a very simple concept. And then this is an interesting thing because it's going to come back later, but he places a ward in this bush that he's backing in. Obviously, there's no reason why he would do that unless if he didn't have the macro intelligence to predict the enemy jungler's next move. And, you know, okay, so what we see happen here is, you know, the wave is still pretty pushed into topside, so I think he's kind of protecting Kennen here from a lane gank from Rengar. You know, I didn't pick up on this until like the third time I watched this game through, but this ward actually plays a big part in his next movement as a jungler. So he starts going to his wolves, you know, just clearing whatever. And as we fast forward, we see that Rengar actually does go for that lane gank that he must have predicted, because Rengar comes into this bush, gets spotted by the ward that Peanut placed earlier, and not only does this save Kennen from getting cheesed in a lane gank, but he actually responds right away by going into Rengar's bot side jungle, knowing that, you know, he's top side, you know, he can't defend against this counter jungling. Now the Gromp is actually taken, which is kind of unfortunate for him because it kind of negates what he was trying to do. But the thought and the concept is still there. It still wastes Rengar's time because he went topside, and of course it saved Kennen from, you know, getting killed there. Mid lane actually gets ganked by Irelia here, but once again, if we turn on Fog of War, we see him perfectly sit in the patch like right at the end, and Jace is low under tower and just does not see it coming, gets surprised, and Peanut gets another kill for himself. And yeah, just hyper aware of every Fog of War patch on the map. I think that's a big part of jungling, especially after watching Peanut abuse it. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. And like I said, he ends up pushing the wave, obviously, after he gets the kill. He pushes the wave out, you know, to reset the wave, make Jace miss more XP and farm. You know, this is a concept that I think most junglers know by now. I think I've talked about it a lot, but, you know, Peanut's certainly no exception to this rule. So he actually heads down for a bot lane dive here because they're pretty low under tower and the wave's about to crash, which I think is the right move, but Rengar actually is pretty all over it and he kind of expects this to happen. Well, whether or not he expects it to happen, he is in the right place at the right time, and LEESIN's only level 5, so they don't have the ability to get an easy free kill here, and I actually see a little bit of a mechanical error, but I think, you know, what's important to realize is that happens. He misses the Q onto the bot lane and then misses the Q on a Rengar here, which gives him a free out, and he gets exhausted and taken down. So 2 missed Qs actually leads to his death here. And, you know, normally you could look at that and be like, oh, wow, he's bad. But obviously Peanut's not a bad player. You know, it's LEESIN. You know, he's not a bot. You know, he's going to make mistakes. And Lucian actually makes a nice play here and gets the triple kill. Cat comes in and cleans up to at least get 2 for 3. Actually gets a 3 for 3 because of that, which is pretty nice. But yeah, you know, you're going to make mechanical errors. Even the rank 1 Korean player who's a LEESIN main makes little mechanical errors like missing Qs that are right in front of you. So just don't let little mechanical errors get you down. You know, focus more on your macro and the mechanical side will come. All right, so this is also just having very good macro awareness. I absolutely love watching Peanut play because he does things that, like, in the back of our minds, we all know that we should do this, but we just don't have the aptitude to actually make the play because we just kind of doubt ourselves. Peanut actually goes right past his blue. If we turn off Fog of War, instead of going to his blue, he knows that Rengar started topside, and so because Rengar had just gotten killed bot lane, he knows that he's going to be probably coming back into his jungle and going to his red buff because he has the timer on it. So he runs past his blue buff and goes right into the jungle of Rengar. He probably expected him to be clearing red at this time, but Rengar actually went and started his Krugs first. It looks like he was going to do a full clear. So LEESIN actually... Peanut actually just takes the red buff for himself because he's like, oh, I must have been wrong. Rengar must have decided not to go red buff. Maybe he expected me to, you know, come counter jungle him. But it was actually just that, you know, Rengar was taking Krugs. But regardless, he gets the red buff for himself, and the enemy Rengar then is in a bad situation because Peanut obviously just hit a power spike. He just finished Warriors. He hit level 6. And Rengar had just blown his ultimate bot lane in the previous gank, in the previous like little skirmish that happened. So he's got a huge advantage over Rengar right now, and pretty much Rengar's fucked at this point. He goes in, gets the easy combo RQQ, and takes him out. And he's just snowballing at this point. He's keeping Rengar behind. He's taking red buffs. He's getting kills. And now he finds himself actually pretty caught out, but with some nice jukes, he's able to get himself out, and his solo laners then roam up to join him, and they help him out, and they completely turn the fight, and Peanut actually stays alive, which this is just 100% good microplay, and he gets rewarded for it. Alright, so at this point in the game, we are 16-6, so pretty ahead for Peanut's team. 14 minutes in the game only, so it's been a pretty fast-paced game, obviously. And here's another display of Peanut really looking at the map and using the information that he's been given. So Rengar's... obviously, you know, he's been spotted bot side of the map. He's spotted again by this ward here. Shows him running toward bot side. So what Peanut instantly does is after he takes his blue buff, he knows that this is a perfect time to make a play on the top side of the map. So he immediately runs top side to look to make a play on Aurelia here. And this is just knowing that he has a window of opportunity. When you have information on the enemy jungler, that's the best time to go for a play. So he actually goes for a dive on Aurelia topside here, knowing that there's not going to be any contention from Rengar to potentially counter gank because he's been spotted on the ward bot side. And again, that's just playing to the whatever's the most high percentage, and I really admire that about Peanut. He's super high percentage, super efficient, and he always knows what to do, obviously. Now, another thing I've noticed watching Peanut play LEESIN is that he doesn't give kills to his laners hardly at all. Even if a kill is free, he has no problem taking the kill for himself. I think in certain situations, it's more beneficial to hand kills over to your laners, but in snowbally games like this, Peanut feels confident having all the kills on himself. And I think it's become a common misconception that kills are always better off on laners instead of the jungler, but this definitely isn't the case if you know how to use the gold for yourself, and I think Peanut kind of shows why it's okay to take kills as LEESIN. So now here Peanut goes for a gank onto Lucian. He's just running behind the tower because Lucian's pretty overextended here. And, you know, let's see what happens. He goes in, he fucks up the kick, he misses the Q. You know, if you didn't know this was Peanut, you'd be like, oh wow, bronze LEESIN. But how he handles misplays is extremely awesome. He fails the gank on Lucian, shakes it off. He doesn't care when he misplays. He's just super in the zone. He knows that he'll come back and get the kill later. So really, another admirable trait about Peanut's LEESIN is just how he doesn't let misplays get to him. Alright, I want to pause the game here because there's a really awesome thing that a lot of LEESIN players can learn from this situation here. You know, one thing people always ask on LEESIN is how do you close out a game? Because obviously this game is pretty heavily snowballing in their favor. It's 27-8. You know, he's 13-1 at this point. Obviously, there's still a lot that needs to be done in order to win this game. And I think what we can learn from how he handles the next step of the game is how efficient he is with taking objectives. He always looks forward, and I think this game shows this perfectly, is he looks forward as he can instead of looking for back objectives, and I kind of just made this concept up myself, but what I mean by this is I don't see him settle for a Drake in this situation, even though it's free. Instead, he's going aggressive, looking for a catch on Jace here, and because he's so fed, the Jace has to respect him and backs off, which gives him a free mid tower, and then shortly after, he does the exact same thing bot side. Katarina's starting to take the tower, and he steps up and kind of zones out the Jace, forces the Jace to respect him. What I take from watching this is that he likes to conquer the map when he can. He doesn't look to simply get a gold lead. He's more interested in getting map control, and I think this is almost an obvious statement, but watching him play kind of reframes how I approach a Fed mid game. I'll probably start just applying pressure with my presence alone instead of trying to force plays, and this pretty much seals the deal for this game. They crack their base, take inhibs, and the enemies actually forfeit the game at 21 minutes. And after looking through his match histories and watching some of his games, almost all of his wins as LEESIN are forced super quickly like this game here, and it definitely goes to show you that the best way to play LEESIN in the late game is to never get to the late game at all. Now, as I make this video, I realize how long it's been going on now, so I don't want to drag this on any longer, so I'm just going to end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was educational for you. I know it's been educational for me. Please leave comments below to critique the way I approach the spectate, and as always, till next time.